We have Greg here with us. Yay, Greg. G Suite, as many of us like to call him. And so Greg is the master of all things Google, but also has been a pioneer in using EduProtocols and informing others on the benefit of using them and how to use them. Hopefully in the past, you guys remember we did some sessions with Iron Chef and Fast and Curious, and Greg's been using a new protocol called ThinSlides that he's going to tell us about today. So my first question for you, Greg, what is ThinSlides?
ThinSlides are about as simple as it gets as far as using technology in your classroom. We're talking about sharing out a shared slide deck with your class with one slide per student, and you give them a concept to explore on the slide, a vocabulary word or something that you're going to do in class that day. And you tell them on their slide, they can put one picture about that concept and one word about that concept. And you give them 3 or 4 minutes to work on the slide, to put it together. And then after that 3 or 4 minutes is done, I always set a timer when I'm doing this. So I have the timer going on the projector screen so the kids can see how much time they have left. After the time is up, then we go in a quick whip around fashion to each student, and each student gets, usually I go for 8 to 10 seconds per student to describe their slide, say why they picked that picture, why they picked that word. And it's a very, very quick activity, and we're like done within 5 minutes or so. And every student has had a voice and has been able to contribute. And if we're doing a vocabulary words, I might put a different vocabulary word on each slide that the class is given, so that in a very short period of time, everybody is getting an answer to whatever it is that they're exploring in the slides.
Great.
So I think it's like really, really simple.
Yeah, which I mean is what we kind of need, right? We need simple things, and that's the good thing about EduProtocols. There's tons of templates already out there, and so it's really easy to create this. So specifically, in what kind of lessons would you use ThinSlides? So you mentioned like teaching vocabulary, but what are some other examples of how you've used ThinSlides?
So in a lot of my classes, I actually go kind of a few steps further where I don't limit it to just one picture and one word on the slide. I use it a lot for reviewing. I could give you an example right now of what I did a few weeks ago as a review. All right. So one of the things that John Carriffo, the guy who developed ThinSlides, recommends when you're starting out to use them with the class is to do very low load concepts, just like practice the first few times that you're using it. And this is one that I have up on the screen now that is an example of that. So I have this first slide here, and this is one that I downloaded from the EduProtocol's website. Again, we've got one word or a phrase with one image on one slide, and typically 3-4 minutes. It kind of depends on what the concept is that we're doing. It just determines how much time I will usually give the kids. So this would be the first one that I give them on the first day of class. The topic is a food that people should not eat. And kind of a weird topic. If you decide to use this, be prepared for some very weird, and if it's with middle schoolers, very disgusting food choices. But I put a couple of examples that are tame here. Lucas picked a type of mushroom. Again, you can see he put one picture, his name and the name of the mushroom. And it is a constant fight with the students to force them to stay on one picture and one word. And here you can see Ali insisted on 2 pictures, and more text. They're always wanting to put more text. So the first few times that I do this, that's what I'm emphasizing, is for them to follow the directions. I have a couple of more examples, and some other suggested ones for the first few days that they're doing these. So here, let me pull up day 2. Okay, best movie ever. And here they were better at this one, with sticking with 1 word and 1 picture. And the other ones that I have as examples here, like the best thing you did in the summer, and the 4th one was a dream job. So again, it's very fast moving. The kids seem to really like doing these. And I really like it because every kid has a chance to participate. And I don't know, just the rapid fire nature of it. While we're presenting, I often will pause and I'll ask a kid a question about why he picked such and such, or keep a running dialogue going. And then oftentimes the whole class will start discussing, which is great, especially if we're in lockdown, we're doing this remotely. This is something that works really well, I've found, remotely. And it's a chance for all the kids to participate in it.
So what are some prerequisite skills that students need in order to be able to do ThinSlides?
They need to be able to Google, find images, and it's just simply pasting them on the slide. They really low load as far as skills are concerned. Mm-hmm. One thing you might want to do to start improving the looks of the slides, or if that's like a goal of yours, you could start teaching students some just basic design skills, like how to pick colors that complement each other. I tell the students, if you finish early, which is true of most of them, if they finish before the 3 or 4 minutes is up, spend that time making the slide look better. So kids will work on backgrounds and picking fonts and picking colors to use on the slides. And like in my computer classes, we usually will spend a bit of time discussing how to pick colors that work together, just some basic design concepts, the rule of thirds and where to place things on the slide and that kind of thing.
And so for you as the teacher, really all the prep that you're doing is downloading the template and then creating enough slides for your class, right? So you're just duplicating the slides. If you have 20 students, you duplicate it 20 times, right? And then
to make it simpler, I usually ahead of time put the kid's name on each slide, just so there's no confusion as far as which slide is which students. That helps speed things along. I found if I don't do that, somebody will start working on a slide and another student will claim it as his, and drama ensues. So I've just found it's easier to take the time ahead of time to put a kid's name on each slide and just do it. With the small classes that we have now, it's piece of cake. Totally. That's one of the things I love about this activity, is it's almost no work for me, other than coming up with, well, what concept or what word do we want to do today, on this.
Are you using ThinSlides every day in your class?
Not every day, no. I probably would. Here's one thing where let me back up a second and talk about EduProtocols as a whole. Do you mind doing that? All right.
Go ahead.
So a lot of the teachers at ICSB have heard us talk, we've been gung-ho on Iron Chef and Fast and Furious, I think, are the 2 main EduProtocols that we've pushed. But the problem with people that have tried Iron Chef specifically in their classes, we love it, and I love using Iron Chef, but the amount of time it takes is the big issue, is kind of the kids slow down and it just doesn't move quick enough. And kind of one of the reasons that I like ThinSlides is it's kind of teaching the kids how to work fast, if that makes sense, and how to get through the task really, really quickly. And I kind of see this as preparation for Iron Chef. And so I might do this for the first month or so of the class, maybe even longer. And then we could transition over to, hopefully then when they're used, they've built up some skills and they're kind of used to doing this sort of thing. We could switch over to Iron Chef and do some more deeper concepts, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Because as I was looking at ThinSlides, I was like, I can see how this is preparatory for the same concept as Iron Chef, but with a little bit more depth to it. Yeah. And I could see
like for vocab words, it's great. I kind of take it a bit further, whereas I'm not, like with my high school classes, I tend not to do a single word with these, but it's still kind of using the ThinSlide protocol. So I'm going to pull up an example and let me kind of give you an example of this. In my web development class, I needed to review some concepts before plunging into a lecture for the day. And I needed to talk to the students, or I needed to review linking and working with images. And so I developed this slide deck with them, or for the students, specifically to review linking to other pages and working with images and a few other things that I just wanted to review. But I didn't really want to do the review session with the students myself. I wanted the students to do the review. So I made a slide deck. I put I gave each student a slide with their name on it, and I put a different question on each slide. Still a pretty basic question that they could easily answer in a few minutes. So these are actually examples of what the kids came up with I think I gave them actually 5 minutes on this to fill out their slide with the answers. So the question is up on the top along with an HTML tag that they had to answer the question that I had put on, or the task that I had put on the slide. And most of these are terrible looking slides, but each student, had probably 30 seconds to explain why they chose that answer that they did, why it works, talk about the code. This one, Rebecca made it look a little bit better. She's very visual. And it turned out great. The kids were then prepped for the lecture that I had to give them that day, and it went really, really well. So this is technically, I guess, not a thin slide because it's not one word and one picture, but it just ended up being a really, really good way to start the class out so that I could then cover new material quicker than I otherwise would have. And then I have I'll tell you one more example really, really quick.
Yeah.
This week in class, I realized when I was prepping for a lecture that there was a block of code that I had never gone over with the students. And I was like, oh no, what do I do? I don't want to spend 10 or 15 minutes going over this. I really didn't have the time. I had to spend the time on others. So I made another slide deck. And I put the things that I wanted that I needed to go over. It's styling text using a style sheet. So I made up a series of, however many students, 7 or 8 slides, and I assigned it one question to each student. Gave them this one. Actually, I ended up giving them more like 8 minutes to go ahead and answer. And find, they had to research, find the answer, and then put it on the slide. And then they went through, had like 30 seconds each student to present it. And it ended up being really fantastic. It was great. Something that I probably would have spent more time than just the 15 minutes or so that it took to go through to create the slides and then present the slides. I probably would have ended up spending 20 or 30 minutes. And it just gained me some time in the class to cover the other stuff that I needed to cover that day. And you can see, even with just, that slide deck that we looked at earlier was done maybe 3 weeks before this one. And you can kind of see the kids are getting better at producing slides, at least they're more interesting than just the plain text.
Yeah.
And each student makes it uniquely theirs, and yeah, it's cool. So again, it's a set of concepts that I had the students teach to each other, and it ended up being really good. They had discussions about almost every slide, and it was fantastic. So that's, I kind of see that as a variation of the ThinSlide EduProtocol, going a little bit deeper, doing a little more information on the slide than how they recommend it.
That's great. That's a really good suggestion because too, it's forcing kids to take a little bit more ownership. And often when you have to research and then present it, you learn and remember so much more of that than just listening to a lecture. So that's a really great idea. And a good like alternative take on a ThinSlide. Yeah.
Yes. And the students, by the way, I just let them from their seat present. I don't make them get up, to the board and do it. It's very, very informal. Again, our classes are so small that it just lends itself really well to this kind of thing.
Do you have anything any suggestion of why teachers should try out ThinSlides?
It's like I said at the beginning, it's kind of the simplest. It's, as I see it, it's the simplest thing that you can do with technology, just about with your class. The prep time is very, very minimal. It kind of runs itself, and it's something the kids really seem to enjoy doing. I see it as a win-win-win.
Yeah, and
plus it's preparing, as we discussed earlier, it's preparing them for other EduProtocols. So it's limiting direct instruction on my part, and it's kind of putting the burden of that on the student's part, which is great. So yeah, and it's 100% participation from the class.
And I can already start envisioning different subject areas and how they can use it too. It doesn't have to be something that's just limited to a computer class. It could be your entry or exit ticket to review concepts that were learned that day in class. I mean, and it's all on the students, like you said, and they're taking ownership, and that's what we want. So, yeah. Well, great, Greg. That was super informative. I feel like I learned a lot. I kind of want to try out ThinSlides, but I'm not teaching, so it is what it is. But hopefully this encourages.
Missing out on all the fun, Christine.
I know. I'm missing out on trying all these fun things. But maybe in a staff professional development, you'll see a ThinSlide in the future.
There we go. Yep.
All right. Thanks for your time, Greg. Sorry.
I said coming your way soon.
Watch out, people. You'll know who I learned it from. Thanks, Greg, for sharing your EduProtocol with us. And yeah, hopefully you guys are encouraged to try this out in your classrooms as well.